Scott, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Stormy, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been, Stormy? How you doing? I'm doing great, Scott. How you been? How's things? Come on, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Doing good, mental. Let's go, Scott. Market is picking up on Monday or not? Market is a bit choppy right now. It's a bit rough right now. So there has been some institutions that have been selling their Bitcoin ETFs. But in general, apparently a new report has came out of the United States that the United States market is doing well somehow. Even though we have crazy inflation, they're in crazy debt, prices are still skyrocketing through the roof. But apparently the economy is still doing well. It's according to a new study test that just came out. Morning, Shelly. Good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles, for keeping up. Thanks for keeping up us with to the date. SQG, how you doing? Good to see you, Shelly. How you doing? Miles, please do not forget that I'm investing with you. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles of CMF. I'm back from holiday. Miss you all. Bull XRP. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How's vacation? Good evening, Miles of CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles of CMF. Free and Feather, good to see you. How you been? Joe, evening, good to see you. How you doing? Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Good evening, Miles. How you doing? I'm doing great. How you doing? It was doing well in 2008 as well. That's true, JP. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? Yep, the market was doing excellent back in 2008 as well, when Moody's came out with their first initial report. Hi, Miles of CMF. George, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Dennis, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Howdy, Miles and CMF peeps. Semper, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? So we'll do a gist of what we're going to talk about on tonight's live show before we go through. We'll do essentially the gist of what we're going to go through, the intro, disclaimer, and by that time everyone's tuned in for the first part of the live show. So on tonight's live show, we are going to be talking about essentially MasterCard. So the first news topic we're going to go through on tonight's live show is regarding MasterCard and cryptocurrency and blockchain payments. We're going to also talk about the debt crisis issue regarding Bitcoin mining industries. Quite a lot of Bitcoin mining industries are really starting to feel the pressure, with one of them actually filing in for bankruptcy. We're also going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding the UN. The UN is going to be talking about essentially so the recent UN meeting that's going to be coming up, normally they do hints of what they're going to be talking about in the UN. And the main topic, apparently this time around inside the UN, is regarding AI and how AI could threaten democracy. I think the UN has done that by themselves. Really, AI couldn't be an equation that matter. But we're going to talk about that on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to go through the news topic of Bitcoin in terms of collateralized loans. So in other words, using Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency as a debt to borrow against, a perspective coming from a CEO of a company. We're also going to talk about on tonight's live show regarding Telegram and how much cryptocurrencies he holds. We're also going to be talking about how Telegram's essentially Pavel, the founder of Telegram's recent case that I talked about yesterday on this live show regarding Switzerland. Well, now we all know that is an actual major case going on in France against Telegram, but there's also a separate case against him in Switzerland that's just resurfaced, and apparently that case is still open. We're also going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding Elon Musk and how X is reportedly being shadow banned, starting with Brazil, and other countries could be en route as well. We're also going to talk about Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE on tonight's live show, according to a new recent report on who's further ahead in terms of blockchain innovation, regulations, Web3 technology, and so on, between Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE. We're also going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding the U.S. House Committee That's essentially to examine crypto issues in September. So there's actually a few dates we're going to go through on tonight's live show as well. There's a few dates coming up. We're going to the US House Committee talking about cryptocurrencies and regulations. We're also going to talk about crypto.com on tonight's live show as well, how they've just partnered with Standard Chartered Bank. We're also going to talk about on the news topic of the US in terms of their GDP. The US GDP surpasses expectations by some miracle, and raising questions about the future Fed policies that we could be looking forward to. Are they going to be good or bad? We're also going to talk about Ripple Labs on tonight's live show as well, regarding a major move in Asia, spotlighted at this event. So, mixture of news to go through on tonight's live show regarding different countries, those different jurisdictions, Singapore, Hong Kong, the UAE, the US economy, and some essentially crypto firms going bankrupt that could have some sort of an effect on the market space. Also, Elon Musk getting shadow banned in terms of X getting shadow banned, or Telegram getting shadow banned from quite a lot of jurisdictions. A old case that resurfaced out of nowhere against him. And then MasterCard. But the first news we are going to be talking about tonight's live show is regarding MasterCard. But before we go through that, welcome to the CMF Live Show. If you are watching this for the first time ever, this is the CMF Live Show, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. And on this live show, you can tune in every single night. I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, AI, politics, regulations, things that's essentially vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital era. Also, the disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. If you are new, welcome to the CMF Live Show. If you are a regular, let's go CMF. And the first news topic we are going to go through on tonight's live show is regarding cryptocurrency and blockchain moves from MasterCard. Also, we do live Q&As as well, which means if you have any questions, get involved inside the comment section. We are live right now on YouTube and X. By the way, thank you so much to everyone that's retweeted this live show right at the beginning, liked this live show, and dropped a comment. Then it generally does help with the algorithm to expand the CMF family. And also, thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's also liked the video as well, on X and YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone that's retweeting, sharing, and so on. Thank you so much. So, before we go through the first news regarding Microsoft, let's go inside the comment section first. And then we'll go inside the first news regarding Microsoft. Let's see where we are at. We are at here. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How are you today? Miles and CMF. Lena, I'm doing great. How you been? Hello, Miles. Share the program. Let's go, Scott. What did we talk about last night? So much is going on Bitcoin too quickly. Yep. Regarding Bitcoin, I mean, it seems like a few Bitcoin mining industries are having difficulties maintaining to keep their doors open, or in this case, their lights on. They're struggling in terms of quite a lot of debt is being essentially brought up. One of them had to claim for bankruptcy, which we're going to go through on tonight's live show. All the Bitcoin mining corporations have to essentially file in for bankruptcy, which is not good for Bitcoin mining. The other ones will most likely get brought out, or they're also going to be filing in for bankruptcy as well. And that's what essentially is going on today regarding Bitcoin. Good evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? But before the Bitcoin halving, we talked about essentially that the smaller and medium-sized, essentially Bitcoin mining institutions will most likely go bust because they can't survive after the halving. And as time has progressed after the halving, these small and medium-sized, essentially Bitcoin corporations are being essentially squeezed out. They're either being brought out or filing for bankruptcy. Semper, howdy, Miles and CMF. Let's go. How you doing? Ian, good to see you. How you doing? Funky brother. Good evening, brother Miles and the rest of the CMF family. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Messi, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Manny, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? When Ripple paid a fine and the SEC accepts the money, does that mean the SEC can't appeal as they accepted the money? Okay. When Ripple pays the fine, so Ripple still has to pay the $125 million. When Ripple does pay the fine, the SEC still can appeal. However, they have to have a genuine excuse of why they're appealing. It can't just be they're appealing for a random reason. There has to be some sort of evidence for the judge to even consider, and they essentially consider the appeal. But the other issue is the other question. Sorry, not the other issue, but the other thing is as well. A lot of people are asking. So let me just answer right now. Is that after the 60-day period, can the SEC, appeal still? So when the 60-day period runs out, can the SEC still appeal? The answer to that question is yes. However, after the 60-day appeal situation ends, the SEC has to essentially send out a letter to the judge and essentially say that based on this and this evidence that we do have against Ripple, we want to extend so we can appeal. But they have to have a substantially great amount of evidence of some sort of allegation of fraud, genuine evidence, not speculation evidence or conspiracy theory evidence, but genuine evidence for the courts to even give them an extension on the 60-day period. So when the 60-day period ends, they can still do it, but they need grounds. They need genuine grounds of evidence, PDF documentations, not speculations or conspiracy theories from the SEC and Gary Gensler's team, but genuine grounds, even after the 60 days. During the 60 days, yes, they can still appeal. Even if Ripple pays the money, they still have that within that limit to appeal parts of the case. But again, they need some sort of grounds to appeal it before the judge even considers it. During or after? So let me answer that one as well. Okay, first news on tonight's live show. Troy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Let's go. So first news on tonight's live show is regarding Microsoft, MasterCard. Cryptocurrency and blockchain move from MasterCard. MasterCard plans to eliminate traditional credit and credit card numbers and adapt a essentially tokenization technology to reduce the risk of information leakage. So MasterCard has realized that moving to a blockchain technology concept is actually better for them in terms of not being compromised. The development was reported by a Singaporean-based publication, which outlined that MasterCard's latest move to address the growing problem of online fraud by using blockchain technology. Tokenization technology replaces sensitive data such as credit card numbers with randomly generated digital strings known as tokens, essentially. These tokens replace the original data during the storage and transformation in terms of significantly reducing the risk of data breaches happening in MasterCard. MasterCard's CEO, Michael, said that the company aims to expand the use of technology and replace traditional passwords with biometric identification methods such as fingerprints or facial scans. So MasterCard is going to be moving away from regular bank cards that people do use on an everyday basis to face scans or finger scans. So next time, when they do launch this, when MasterCard does launch this, they're going to be launching where you do your shopping by scanning your face, or you do your shopping by, essentially putting your fingerprint down. The initiative is a part of MasterCard's strategy to combat online payment fraud, which is expected to cost the company more than $91 billion by 2028. MasterCard's first implemented tokenization technology a decade ago, and it initially took 3 years to complete this $1 billion transaction using the method. Bloomberg reported on this matter as well, and the company processed the same volume in just 1 week. So MasterCard is moving to a whole new, essentially, payment system where no more MasterCard bank cards are going to be available. Not now, but very, very soon. MasterCard is going to be moving away from bank cards to you scanning your face or scanning your fingers to be able to do some shopping. It's basically what's been going on in China, but also MasterCard is in the trials of CBDCs as well, just to put that in perspective as well. But it's also what's going on in China. If anybody's seen any videos in China, people, now in the West, we do have, for example, Amazon Go Fresh, where you do your shopping and it just pretty much scans your face and so on. But in China, pretty much everywhere you would go, you would just pretty much scan your face. I mean, there are some provinces that don't have this technology and this concept going on, but the most of the provinces do already have it, where you just do your shopping and scan your face, or do your shopping and scan your hands, or whatever, on that basis, because China has rolled out CBDCs quite on a large scale, to be honest. Now, but these are just basically all indications that we're not that far off from that digital future we're all going to be living in, when MasterCard is talking about no more bank cards and we're going into face scans. Debt crisis is what we're going to talk about next, and the debt crisis situation regarding Bitcoin minings. Debt crisis grips Bitcoin mining industries as major players face bankruptcy. So apparently the Bitcoin mining industry is going through some major essentially debt issues, where one has filed for bankruptcy and multiple other ones are lining up for a potential bankruptcy or being brought out by other corporations. The Bitcoin mining industry is currently facing a wave of financial turbulence, as several major players struggling with high debt levels and declining profitability. Companies such as Grid, Stronghold and Rhodium Enterprise are at the forefront of this crisis situation, grappling with significant debt-to-equity ratios that have made it increasingly difficult to maintain positive cash flows and invest in essential upgrades to essentially maintain themselves in this whole Bitcoin mining industry. Grid, one of the companies, once a prominent name in the industry, found itself essentially in a very bad position with more debt than assets as of June 30th, 2024, leading to negative shareholder equities. This financial strain essentially forced Grid into a deal with CleanSpark, which acquired the company and secured $55 million in credit agreements to help pay off its existing loans. This move underscores a growing trend of consolidation within the industry as companies seek stability amid mounting debt pressure. Stronghold has also been battling financial difficulties as well inside the mining facilities. Despite efforts to reduce leverage following the bear market of 2022, Stronghold reported a staggering debt-to-equity ratio of 241% by June 30th, 2024. The company resumed monthly debt payments of $1.6 million in July, just before essentially being acquired by Bitfarmers, which assumed $50 million of Stronghold's debt. This acquisition is viewed as a strategic effort by Bitfarmers to consolidate resources and strengthen its competitive position. Rhodium Enterprise, which had once been on the path to public listings inside the United States, this company was about to go public. This Bitcoin mining industry company was about to go public, and then it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection after defaulting on their loans of exceeding $50 million. With a staggering essentially D/E ratio of 839.56 as of December 31st, 2022, Rhodium's financial collapse was not entirely unexpected, highlighting the severe challenges faced by highly leveraged Bitcoin miners. These developments reveal a common thread: the unsustainable debt levels that have plunged these companies. The persistently low hash prices of Bitcoin has made it difficult for mining operations to essentially maintain themselves with high leverage to sustain cash inflows, let alone essentially invest in necessary fleet of upgrades to remain competitive. Combined with the ongoing efforts of Bitcoin's halving, many miners are being forced to drastically reduce their debt or seek new financial lifelines to survive. As the Bitcoin mining industry continues to evolve, these events essentially serve as a stark reminder of the financial risk inherent with operating at high levels of debt. The recent wave of consolidation and bankruptcies underscores the importance of financial resilience and strategic management in navigating the volatile and competitive landscape of cryptocurrency mining. So it seems like cryptocurrency mining corporations, some of them are essentially not doing too well, but some of them have been brought out, and the companies that are buying these essentially small and medium-sized corporations, Bitcoin mining corporations, that are being brought out by the larger ones. One of the larger ones, essentially the backbone, essentially the majority shareholder of one of those companies, is actually Vanguard and BlackRock in terms of Bitcoin mining industries. One of them has very high-profile shareholders, and this one particular mining industry is actually buying out everybody they can. So not only is BlackRock essentially the #1 Bitcoin ETF in the world right now, not only apparently is the market for Bitcoin ETFs going to surpass essentially Satoshi's wallet by Halloween was estimated, and not only that, essentially they have so much essentially in value in Bitcoin in terms of ETF, in terms of BlackRock, but they also are going to be controlling the mining industries as well. So BlackRock has a lot of control on the amount of Bitcoin it holds. Also, on the other hand, in terms of the first biggest ETF, in terms of the control they also have on the mining industries. So they're controlling both sides of the game right now, BlackRock. They're buying out any mining industries that aren't doing too well through their third-party mining industry. And on the other side, they're the #1 ETF in the world. That's one way to control the outcome, where you can basically cover both sides. Pablo, good to see you as well. How you doing? Troy, good to see you as well. How you doing? And Glenda, good to see you as well. How you doing as well inside the conversation. So, next news on tonight's live show is regarding UN, moving away from the BlackRock and essentially Bitcoin mining industries to UN. The UN is going to be having a meeting is coming up with the UN. Now, they typically do tend to give some sort of snippets of what they're going to be talking about at the UN, the meetings that are coming up. And we have a snippet of what they're actually going to be talking about, which is AI. Inside the UN, they are going to be talking about AI, but a different part of AI. So hate speech and deep fakes threaten democracy and peace, UN Secretary General says. So AI apparently is giving essentially politicians, is what they care about as politicians. So apparently AI is giving a bad name to governments and politicians because of certain imagery that AI can create by mocking politicians or mocking essentially government authorities, or the amount of information sometimes it could produce, and sometimes it can produce inaccurate or accurate information that may not want to be out there. The United Nations Secretary General has declared this year's International Day of Democracy a referendum on artificial intelligence in a message posted to the UN website on today, essentially, August 30th. But the funny part is the UN thinks that AI is making them look bad, that AI is making the UN look bad, that AI is making politicians look bad. I personally would say politicians make themselves look bad, and so does the UN. AI is not really, obviously, it's not helping their situation, but again, on the other hand, I mean, the UN makes themselves look bad, and so do politicians. They don't really need AI to make them look bad. They are bad people in general. Observed annually on September 15th since 2017, the International Day of Democracy is an event promoting the principles of democracy. Each year, prior to the event, the UN Secretary General gives a message describing the theme of the event and its importance for democracy. Do you know what's interesting about the UN? So the UN obviously stands for pretty much democracy, is what they describe it as, you know, human rights and people's rights and freedom of speech, and that's what basically the UN is pretty much known for. But did you know that essentially, well, if you don't know that, I'm basically Persian, I'm Iranian, and the UN did give Iran's supreme leader a seat, the UN. Iran notoriously known for a country where the government essentially tortures their own people. So interesting that the UN, that stands for democracy, has given Iran a seat where the Iranian government don't know how to treat their own people like people. And I could go into detail on what they do, but I can't because there's so many regulations in place when I talk about these kinds of things on social media. But yeah, the UN, that stands for democracy, gives their seats away to people who don't understand what democracy is, who don't understand what human rights is, or what essentially freedom of speech is. But ironically, they stand for democracy and people's rights, probably in la land, because it's not enough. Per a press release from the UN this year, Democracy's Day focuses on artificial intelligence as a tool for good governance. According to the Secretary General's message, this is the Secretary General's message, left unchecked, the dangers posed by artificial intelligence could have serious implications for democracy, peace, and stability. AI is going to, so what they're worried about is AI creating pictures and videos, and it's damaging democracy, peace, and stability. You know, it's strange because I didn't know ChatGPT could start wars. It's very odd because according to essentially the UN, AI is right now, AI is standing in front of democracy, peace, and stability. I wasn't aware that ChatGPT can start wars. I wasn't aware that ChatGPT could start inflation. I wasn't aware that ChatGPT can censor X or Telegram. That's interesting, you know. I mean, you learn something new every day. According to the UN, you know, ChatGPT can start wars. ChatGPT can essentially sue Telegram for essentially freedom of speech. ChatGPT can do many things apparently no one was aware of. That's interesting that the UN is thinking these kinds of things. This can start the essentially provision of mis and disinformation, the spread of hate speech, and the use of so-called deepfakes, because these are major issues right now, apparently. This message also described the potential for artificial intelligence technologies to help promote and enhance full and active public participation. They want the public to get involved, to stand against AI, equality, security, and human development. Coming from the UN. If you look at the people who have seats in the UN, not a single person inside the UN understands what democracy is, what peace is, what stability is, or in their own words, human development. A mixed message, without a doubt. The UN stance on AI, per the Secretary General message, is that AI must serve humanity essentially safely. However, it's unclear exactly what this means in the context of promoting and upholding democracy. They mean censorship. They want to start censoring ChatGPT, so we can't get some sort of sensitive information from it, is what they're essentially referring to. Solving issues such as the proliferation of AI-generated hate speech, deep fakes, or other concerns related to the use of AI-powered tools remains a largely social and regulatory issue. The technology, however, is arguably the foundation of democracy itself. This year's International Day of Democracy, according to the Secretary General's message, will largely focus on how AI can be harnessed to foster inclusivity and equality. I mean, that's, the perspective the General Secretary of the UN has is the same perspective, in all honest opinion, a moron would have. That essentially that AI is the one that's threatening democracy, that AI is the one right now threatening democracy, threatening human rights, threatening essentially freedom of speech, threatening stability. These are what ChatGPT is standing against right now. And I mean, sometimes it baffles me when I read or when I hear essentially the UN do speeches or the World Economic Forum do speeches. It's like either they're playing dumb or they are dumb, or they assume the people listening are too dumb to realize it. Because there's no other way around it. But yeah, apparently ChatGPT can start wars. Because that's what ChatGPT is capable of. Not the UN. No. The UN stands for peace and democracy. Yet they give out seats to notorious leaders like the leader of Iran, which, I mean, but yeah, if you didn't know that, now you know. ChatGPT is against your freedom, but the UN apparently stands up for your freedom. Again, probably not in this world. It's probably in La La Land that the UN stands up for human rights or democracy or peace. Peace and the word UN should not be in the same sentence, or democracy and the UN should not be in the same sentence. But anyways, moving on from the ridiculous speech from the UN Secretary General to Bitcoin. In terms of Bitcoin collateralized loans, a perspective coming from a CEO. But before we go through that news, let's go inside the comment section first. By the way, this is a live show, so if you do have any comments, put inside the comment section, down there. I'm reading everybody's comments one by one, and we get through the messages as well, and then we go back to the news. And the next news I'm reading out is regarding borrowing against your crypto assets, a perspective coming from a CEO of a company that does loans inside the United States. Mouse, should I convert? Actually, no, I think it's above. Mouse, you're right. I was just talking to a Chinese lady who came to Canada about 3 months ago. She expressed the convenience of shopping with scanning her face or using her palm to gain access. It's basically, what's going to be happening in the West as well very soon. If you want to know what your country is going to look like in a few years' time, look at China. I said this in 2023 when China was the only one with CBDC, social credit systems, and everything else. And no other country had CBDCs or social credit systems, and there was nothing on the news to describe it. On the scenes, behind the scenes, there were PDF documentations, but on the scenes, there was nothing on the news about CBDCs in terms of other countries even looking into it. And China was the only one. And I said, if you want to look where your country is going to be headed, the country you're living in, where it's going to be headed in a few years' time, look at China. Whatever happens in China is going to happen to you in your own jurisdictions. And look what we have now. Censorship, same as China. CBDCs, same as China. All banks, 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs, going to the Bank of International Settlements, the banks of all central banks. We're in CBDCs, we're in social credit system testings, we're in censorship. Pretty much everything they have going on over there, we have over here now. We're not that far off from this whole digital future we're going to be living in, because obviously, the whole COVID situation is when the World Bank was doing testing, the documentations are there. But yeah, regarding I was right. Yep. Miles, should I convert over from USDT to USDC? It's okay for now because they're not really facing inside the United States. It's just an EU situation regarding USDC and USDT. She didn't realize the control. She was on the dope. Yeah. I mean, brainwashing works very nicely on people. Even Miles on CMF. Ronnie, good to see you as well. How you doing, brother? How you been? AI knows politicians are not doing what they should. They don't like accountability, which is facts. AI does not like politicians do not like accountability. Isn't that why they arrested the founder of Telegram? Yep. Is that why they arrested the founder of Telegram? Yep. Regarding the founder of Telegram, so there are multiple situations going on where apparently it came out that Telegram wanted to go public. Was one of the things that came out. So Telegram wanted to go public in 2026. Those plans have just went south. The Telegram founder, apparently, it's not just that they're targeting Telegram or essentially, Telegram app itself. Right now, there is that situation where they're actually targeting him as well. So they're targeting the founder of Telegram directly through a separate case that's resurfaced out of Switzerland that apparently is a still ongoing open case, according to a lawyer. So in Switzerland, there's a separate case against the founder of Telegram. And then for Telegram itself, there's a case in France. There's a case also in India for the Telegram platform as well. There's a case in South Korea that's building up against the Telegram platform as well. And then apparently on the other side, there's also that they didn't want TON, the crypto ecosystem, to grow as quickly as it did. And they wanted to stifle its innovation, which they have done very successfully. They've definitely paused essentially the innovation part of TON's ecosystem because TON was climbing that ladder incredibly quick and now it's stifled. So Telegram was going to go public, which means the founder of Telegram was going to become extremely wealthy. When his company Telegram goes public, he was going to become extremely wealthy, which wasn't good, I'm guessing, for those types of people, the people that are inside those groups. The UN, the World Economic Forum, and so on. It was not good to play for them. So they wanted to stifle Telegram, which they did. They wanted to stifle him, which they did with a separate case that's coming out of Switzerland, open case against him, apparently hitting his own child. There's a case that came out against this, essentially the founder of Telegram. And there's another case essentially that's going on that this is basically all set up. That's a political case to stifle TON's ecosystem. Now, the case that came out of him separately in Switzerland, I have no response on that matter whatsoever. It could be true, it could not be true. I'm not going to respond on that one, but there is a separate case going on against him as well. This is all essentially one going against, and they don't like the idea of how Telegram spreads information very quickly and it's not essentially censored. They don't like the idea that Telegram is not censored because they're having difficulties controlling essentially Elon Musk and X to censor their platform. And I stand for freedom of speech. Everybody should stand for freedom of speech, except politicians, because politicians pretend to stand for freedom of speech, but they're all just lying through their teeth. It's basically a job requirement for a politician to lie through their teeth. But, I mean, that's basically what's going on. And this is just damaging TON's ecosystem the longer this case carries on, because he can't leave France right now. He's got a slap on the wrist and is able to leave, but he can't leave right now. But there's multiple scenarios of why they're holding him back. I mean, Russia is right now still seen as a political move. Agreed 100%. Let's go, Leroy. Share and like is helpful. Let's go, Leroy. Thanks so much for saying that. Happy Pisces. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Has anyone ever seen a... Don't ask those questions. My cell phone scans my face every time I use it, which is true, facts. Had to move over to YouTube. X keeps blocking me. Missed the last part. What about USDT and UAE? Regarding the EU, so eventually USDT won't be able to operate in the EU. It already can't essentially be used on multiple exchanges. So OKX exchange already delisted USDT in the EU due to the MiCA regulations, and a few other exchanges have already delisted USDT as well. But then on the other side, we still have Binance and Kraken who want to keep the doors open for USDT until the beginning of next year before they close their doors fully on USDT if it doesn't become compliant in the EU, which, the chances of USDT becoming compliant in the EU is slim to none, because they have to keep 60% of their assets in EU banks to prove that they can back their assets in case anything goes south. The EU economy doesn't go south because USDT doesn't have backings. So the chance of USDT putting their backings, 60% of their backings essentially in EU banks, is slim to none. So it means that USDT won't be able to operate starting middle of next year onwards in the EU if the MiCA regulations stay this way. Why? The question I asked myself. He wouldn't went public, but the master didn't have over 1 billion users. And obviously, Telegram founder has quite a large reach. Brazil tells Apple to delete X apps from all cell phones, which is all true as well. Regarding Brazil doesn't like freedom of speech either. I mean, Brazil is actually being applauded by the Bank of International Settlements. Why is Brazil being applauded by the Bank of International Settlements? Is because Brazil is going to be launching a very, very interesting CBDC starting next year, which the Bank of International Settlements loved Brazil for doing this, which is that Brazil decided to launch not only a CBDC next year, but also going heavily into social credit systems. But also before that, when they released their CBDC, Brazil said, why do people need many banking apps? Everybody should just have one banking app in Brazil. Why do we need to have 3 or 4 banking apps on our phones? One banking app should only be the answer, and that should be your CBDC wallet in Brazil. So obviously the Bank of International Settlements is loving this idea. A one bank scenario in Brazil, and it's only CBDC wallets. Why not? Is what the Bank of International Brazil is going heavily into censorship. They're going heavily into CBDCs, and also heavily into social credit systems. Actually, interesting enough, Brazil once got caught out regarding their CBDC, which is called Drex. It got caught out the first time Brazil introduced their CBDC to the world, when it was called a CBDC before it was called Drex. It was essentially looked into by some developers, and those developers decoded the Brazilian CBDC in the early days when it was still going through multiple testings, and they realized that Brazil's CBDC had programmability capabilities, like freezing and seizing people's bank accounts and some other things. So Brazil right now is going through heavy censorship because next year they're going to go into incredible censorship next year, Brazil. A lot of countries are going to go into heavy censorship starting next year. But it's starting to show, a lot of politicians and governments are starting to show their true colors this year in terms of CBDC, social credit systems, censorship. I mean, let's not all forget, Donald Trump and Elon Musk were doing a speech together. And the EU stood up and said, you should not essentially be watching this interview between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And this wasn't that far off. This wasn't that long ago. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, 2 people come together to do a speech, to talk about things. And the governments were furious. Why are you watching this as a citizen of the EU? We should be blocking this. Why? I thought the EU was a part of the UN, and the UN stands for democracy and freedom of speech and human rights. What happened to all of that? So starting next year, we're going to go into heavy censorship. I mean, all these jurisdictions will start to show their true colors as we progress forward with their censorship skills. And the UN makes a speech today that the biggest threat to democracy is AI. So the biggest threat to democracy right now is ChatGPT, apparently. Not the governments themselves or the UN themselves. No, ChatGPT is the biggest threat to democracy, apparently. Coming from the Secretary General of the UN. What a moron. Brazil tells Apple to delete their X apps from their cell phones. It's true. So nothing urgent for now. For me in Sweden still works. Yeah, for you in Sweden, you're still good. Biden administration wants the same as Brazil with the Federal Reserve, the monopoly bank and currency with no competition. Yep. Voicing your opinion is a very dangerous thing at the moment. Yep. Now, moving on from all this to Bitcoin. But not just Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general. So the smartest idea living in a digital world should be, essentially, if you want to live successfully in this digital world that we're incredibly headed towards, if you want to live successfully, is to, in my own personal preference for myself, is to borrow, and not my, also an opinion that's coming from a CEO as well, but my opinion came last year, and a CEO this year has decided to repeat my opinion. This CEO does not know who I am, but our opinions match. My opinion came last year, and his opinion came this year. We're going to go through what his opinion is as well. But if you want to live a successful life in a digital world, and you don't have a lot of cryptocurrencies, so some people don't have a lot of cryptocurrencies, they have a small crypto portfolio, which is perfectly fine, to be fairly honest. I mean, if you have a $100 crypto portfolio, or $500 crypto portfolio, or $1,000 crypto portfolio, depending on what you're holding, if you hold long enough, you can outpace everybody else that does decide to sell along the way. Because if you hold long enough, you're going to go more into utility, which means more value for yourself in terms of what you're holding on, hoping that you're holding correct projects that the banks will utilize, the corporations will utilize, the regulations will benefit that crypto project. So those are the things that you're not holding Pepe's granddad. Pepe's granddad isn't going to do you well in the long term. But essentially holding a project that has genuine utility, major contracts in place, major partnerships, major developments, and major money transfer licensings, then if you hold long enough, trust me, you will reach that level you want to exit. But before you exit, the smartest thing to do in a digital world, so you don't run out of cryptocurrencies, because a lot of people will run out of cryptocurrencies in a digital world. So let's say, essentially fast forward a few years, we're now living in a CBDC world. Now everybody's pretty much into CBDCs. And it's large scale right now, because next year CBDCs are coming out, but it's going to start off with 1,000 people having CBDCs, 10,000 people, 50,000, 100,000, all spread along the way. So let's just say a few years and now everybody's into CBDCs fully. It's not spreading, we're all in CBDCs. And you have cryptocurrencies now. What you want to do is not run out of cryptocurrencies, because if you run out of cryptocurrencies, and if you have a small portfolio especially, the worst thing that can happen to you is you'll be stuck on CBDCs. And you don't want to do that to yourself, because either way you will have CBDCs, even if you have cryptocurrencies. Everybody will get a CBDC wallet, even if you have cryptocurrencies. But you don't want to run out of your crypto project. So what do? Your best option is to borrow against your crypto assets and use them as collateral, because you don't pay tax, first of all, on debt that you borrow against. So which means you have your original crypto assets in a bank, for example, HSBC Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, they're all going to be offering collateralized loans against your cryptocurrencies, depending on what cryptocurrencies you're holding. But they're all going to be offering you some sort of loans against your cryptocurrencies. So the smart people, the smart individuals, will borrow against their crypto assets to survive longer in a digital world, which means you borrow against your crypto assets. You spend that money not on buying yourself nice things. Don't borrow against your crypto assets and then go buy a nice car and go on a vacation, because you're a moron if you do that. What you should be doing is, when you borrow against your crypto assets, in my personal preference for myself, is to invest that money so I can pay that borrowed money back, essentially to, for example, HSBC Bank or Standard Chartered Bank, so I could get my crypto assets back as well. So now I, for example, have a new property that I'm renting out from an Airbnb or rental, and I also have my original cryptocurrencies, which I, again, can use to borrow against and borrow against and borrow against, and just keep on investing. So the smart individuals in the digital world will do that to not run out of cryptocurrencies. The morons will go out and essentially sell their cryptocurrencies and not borrow against it, and they'll just buy a nice car, a home, and go on vacation. And then before you know it, about 5 years in, you've run out of cryptocurrencies. You've run out of crypto money, and all you have now is a property to your name, essentially a new car to your name, one new property, and CBDC money, which means you're back to square one. The whole point of being inside this digital world right now is to take advantage before everything goes south. And everything, believe me, is going to go very south. When CBDC and social credit systems come out full frontal, it's going to go very south. And if you think that we're very far, we're really not that far. And you can check the Bank of International Settlement documents. I mean, the Bank of International Settlements, banks of all centralized banks. 63 centralized banks are under the Bank of International Settlements, including G20 countries and G7 countries. The most powerful countries in this world, even the BRICS nations, are a part of the Bank of International Settlements, the majority of them. So they've stated that 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs. They're either in stages of essentially testing, implementation, and so on. But even going further back, as I said previously, essentially COVID times, COVID started out to make people move away from essentially cash money to digital money, in terms of move people away from cash money to mobile payments. And there was Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay. At the same time COVID happened, before actually COVID happened, the World Bank did testings on blockchain technology, and it was successful. The World Bank did testings during COVID-19, essentially. The World Bank did testings on blockchain technology, and it was successful. And then we had COVID-19, and COVID-19 made people move away from cash money because cash money carried germs. So the data also shows that people moved away quite a ridiculous amount. About 80% to 90% of people right now using essentially online payments and mobile payments, and Apple Pay, Samsung, Google Pay, which Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay are ironically in CBDCs right now. They're doing CBDC testing. CBDC testing on your Apple Pay is going on right now in India. Google Play and Amazon Pay is doing CBDC testing as well. So, essentially the whole idea of COVID was set up to make you go digital. And then governments told people crypto is bad, crypto is bad, crypto is bad. But they only did that to make you think the opposite, that crypto is good, which crypto is. If you could do a lot of things in crypto. It actually is your ticket to freedom. But they said, crypto is bad, crypto is bad, crypto is bad. So people run towards digital world. So people run towards blockchain technology. People get used to using essentially cryptocurrencies, sending people money through wallets and so on, because they want you to get prepared for this digital world we're headed into. Everything that's happened was a coordinated movement to happen. So since day one, they weren't really against you, essentially being in crypto. They wanted you to be towards digital. How many people entered the crypto space during COVID? Just go back to that even, okay? World Bank does testings on blockchain technology, successful. COVID happens exactly at that moment in time. COVID happens exactly. People move away from cash, go to Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, because cash carries germs. How many people inside of essentially COVID times jumped inside the crypto space? They wanted you to go towards the digital space. And then they told you crypto is bad, digital world is bad, crypto is bad, because they wanted you to, because it's basic reverse psychology. If the government told you crypto is good, people say, nah, I don't want to go towards crypto. I don't want to go towards blockchain. The government's telling me it's good. So they told you it's bad, 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 so you can go into it even more. It was all coordinated and set up very perfectly for people to be fooled easily. Now, how do you take advantage of this very, very manipulated and rigged game? Is you've got to understand this entire digital world is headed towards this whole roadmap they set up, starting with the World Bank testing on blockchain, and then COVID happens, and then people go to online banking and mobile banking, and then people go more towards the crypto space because government's telling them don't do it, so people's going opposite against the government, so people go more inside the crypto space because the government wants you to know and understand how to do payments in the digital world, send wallet-to-wallet transactions, because that's where we're headed. They want you to get used to blockchain technology, but they couldn't tell you to get used to blockchain technology because you would go against their words, which means that they had to tell you it's terrible, don't go towards crypto, so you do the opposite. Very basic reverse psychology, work very perfectly. But how do you take essentially action? So how do you benefit from this whole digital world? How do you benefit from this very manipulated digital world and rigged digital world that we're headed towards? This entire roadmap was only set up so we can go into CBDCs. This entire roadmap from day one until now was only set up so we can go into CBDCs. That was all the reason. So this is why I say to people, if you're inside the crypto space and you haven't realized by now that this entire thing was just completely rigged for you to be going towards CBDC, they're getting you prepared step by step, living inside this digital world, which the end result being CBDCs. It was all set up. This entire thing was rigged from the beginning. So they want you to go into CBDCs. So how do you benefit is going for the backbone of CBDCs. It's very simple. So this is why I say to people that essentially, if you were inside the crypto space for 6 years, 7 years, because people say, oh, I've been inside the crypto space for 6 years or 7 years, but I'm not holding essentially, any sort of financial projects. No, I'm holding, Pepe's Granddad or meme coin projects or Solana or whatever you're holding. Some are good, some are bad. And, here's the thing. I wish everybody the best on whatever crypto project you're holding. I hope everybody makes a lot of money and buys their family a house and buys themselves a house and does whatever they want. I wish the best for everybody. But what you need to understand is this is a rigged game. It was rigged from day one. And it was a manipulation game. So the end result being CBDCs, if you're inside the crypto space for 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, and you never entered into the field of understanding that the end result is CBDCs and all you're holding is Pepe's Granddad and Pepe's whatever, and when you get to the end results and we're in CBDCs, what were you doing inside the crypto space all this long? Genuine question, because 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line, and we're in deep, not even 5 years, less than 5 years. Because next year, a lot of countries coming out with CBDCs. Next year, we're not that far off. So a few years down the line, we're in deep CBDC territory. What were you doing inside the crypto space for 7 years? Is a genuine question everybody should ask themselves, either now or in a few years when we're deep into when we're essentially deep into CBDC territory, because the end result is CBDCs. This entire rigged game of blockchain, it was all a setup for CBDCs. And how you can benefit in a CBDC world is going for a backbone of a CBDC. But some people don't want to go for the backbone, which is obviously XRP. But people don't want to hear that. But, you know, some people will be on CBDCs and some people will benefit from CBDCs. So it just depends which side of the spectrum you want to be on. Do you want to be the person that benefits from CBDCs or be stuck on them? I'm choosing to benefit from CBDCs because I know it's going to happen, because I know we live in a very manipulated and rigged essentially world. So I'm going to be, essentially benefiting from CBDCs. The sad part is I'm going to benefit from other people being on CBDCs, but if more people realize, then, we wouldn't have so many morons in this world. The reason why this world has also went south for a very long time, the reason why we have so much inflation in this world, nobody cares. The reason why we have so many random wars in this world, nobody cares. The reason why people can't afford groceries in this world, nobody cares. The reason why essentially people can't afford gas, electricity, I mean, I could go on days and just talk about things that people can't afford in this world, and still nobody cares. You know why nobody cares? Because the majority of people in this world are morons. If we had more intelligent people in this world, we wouldn't be in deep, crazy inflation. We wouldn't be in deep, crazy debt. We wouldn't have random wars starting out of nowhere. We wouldn't have the manipulation level we have going on, the rigged game inside the Wall Street or the crypto markets and so on and so on and so on. But we have too many morons in this world. The amount of essentially intelligent people in this world is about this much. The amount of essentially intellectual people in this world is about this much. And about the morons in this world is about this much from the retail section. This much is intelligent, this much is morons. So obviously we're going to have crazy inflation in this world, crazy debt in this world, random wars in this world. People can't afford groceries in this world. People can't afford to buy cars, buy a house, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, pay their loan, pay their gas, pay whatever bill people can't afford. Some people have 6 jobs because we have this many intelligent people in this world and this many morons in this world. Retail section. So of course we live in this stupid world. You can't, but here's the thing. The part two is coming up, and part 2 is living in a CBDC world. So you don't want to be the moron in part 2. Trust me, if you were a moron in part 1, it's okay, because that's done and dusted. Part 1, being a moron it's finished. The game is finished at that point. But you don't want to be a moron in part 2, because it's a whole different ball game of being a moron in part 2. Part 2 moron, you're going to be living in a virtual prison. Honestly, being a part 1 moron is okay. Being a part 2 moron, you're going to be stuck in a virtual prison. So you don't want to be stuck in a virtual prison. Go for a backbone of CBDCs. And the backbone of CBDCs is Ripple. There are 24,000 crypto projects. 24,000 crypto projects. Only one has an active CBDC platform and multiple CBDC wallets. And it's on the list of bank financial settlements, World Economic Forum, and so on. And the list just goes on. And it's called XRP, but people don't want to hear it because it's not doing price action. It's okay, moron. You could be on CBDCs and I will benefit from you. So if anybody's not on XRP, if anybody's not on Ripple, or they're not looking into it, forget about buying it. Don't buy anything you don't understand. Always read before you go into it. But if you're not if you haven't looked at XRP because of people's opinions or people's essentially influencers' opinions and so on, you haven't looked into XRP, or because of price action, no problem, moron. Because I'm going to benefit from you in the future. Because you're going to be on CBDCs, because you thought holding Pepe's granddad was a better essentially option, or holding Solana, which could barely process transactions, or any other random crypto project. And whereas I'm going to be benefiting from your moronis essentially in a CBDC world. So, I can help people up to a certain extent. That old saying, you're taking horse to essentially the water, but you can't make him drink. So no problem. If anybody's against XRP, you're going to be making me money in the future. Just remember that. In a few years' time, when we're fully in CBDC territory, you're going to be making money for other people who are holding the backbone of CBDCs. This entire game was rigged up to go towards CBDCs. World Bank testings, successful blockchain testings, and then we have COVID randomly, and people move away from cash because it carries germs. More people went into cryptocurrencies during COVID times than ever. You think all this was coincidental? But yeah. Now, regarding collateralized loans, this is basically where all this stemmed from. You can borrow against your crypto assets as well in the future. Obviously, freedom for you would be cryptocurrencies. Ultimate freedom will be the backbone of CBDCs. And if you want to go beyond that, you can go into privacy coins as well. Bitcoin collateralized loans accelerate capital velocity. Leaden CEO. Long-term Bitcoin holders or cryptocurrency holders often face roadblocks to using their wealth to secure financing. Adam Reeds, CEO of co-founder of Leaden, a company that offers Bitcoin leading services, recently sat down with Cointelegraph to share how Bitcoin collateralized loans can accelerate the velocity of money and capital. Now, you can do this for cryptocurrencies as well when you borrow against them, which is always the smarter decision to make, because you don't run out of cryptocurrencies. Because some people might have very, very small crypto portfolios, which is perfectly fine. If you, as I said, if you have $100 crypto portfolio, $500 crypto portfolio, $1,000 crypto portfolio, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to compete with somebody that has 50,000, 100,000, or $1 million in cryptocurrencies. Everybody has to start from somewhere, is what I'm trying to say. But as long as you're holding correct projects, they do research perfectly as well. So the smartest way would be in a digital world to borrow. Not financial advice in any sort of way. For myself, this is what I'm going to be doing, borrowing against my crypto assets, use them as collateral. And then, because I don't get taxed on debt, I will be paying some small banking fees and so on, but they'll be much more cheaper than paying taxes. And I still get to keep my original crypto assets as long as I pay back the loan. So Reeds explains that many early adopters of Bitcoin don't want to sell their Bitcoins to access liquidity and often lack robust options to secure loans from traditional financial institutions, which may or may not recognize Bitcoin holdings as collateral. This effectively keeps the collateral locked up and unproductive in the broader economy. Now, this problem is being looked into and is going to be solved by many banking institutions, first starting with HSBC and then Standard Chartered Bank as well. They're going to be offering you essentially the capabilities to lend and borrow against your crypto assets. The solution is to put the Bitcoin collateral to work by borrowing against it, allowing Bitcoin holders to access fiat-dominated essential liquidity to finance a business, consumer spending, real estate, or even acquire more BTC, to Leaden CEO told Cointelegraph. Moreover, because Bitcoin loans are highly effective, they allow the borrower to secure financing in a matter of days, as opposed to weeks or months it usually takes through traditional institutions. Sound collateral essentially alleviates counterparty risk and depreciation risk. It's pretty persistent collateral. The Leaden CEO stated, agreeing with Michael Saylor's assertion that Bitcoin is the most essentially theoretically sound asset class, lacking the wear and tear of accounts or physical depreciation of many asset types. The Leaden CEO also had to say, I think the world is going to wake up and say lending against Bitcoin or crypto assets is a lower risk activity than lending against real estate or lending against equities, because there is no gap risk. Rees also pointed out that other forms of counterparty risk, such as false media reports, fake whistleblower accounts, and bad press, can sink the price of a business or an equity, a problem not inherent in Bitcoin. I would have to disagree with that point, but regarding lending, I agree. Providing leading services developing world, the Leaden CEO also touched on the lack of banking infrastructure, adequate financial services in some parts of the world, and how Bitcoin collateralized loans could level the playing fields for unbanked and those living in high inflationary environments. But borrowing against your assets is 100% facts. I mean, it's the best way and the most smartest way you can go about borrowing against your crypto assets rather than selling them, because you don't want to run out of crypto assets, especially if you have a small portfolio in a digital world. Not financialized in a sort of way, but it's the smartest way, a perspective coming from a CEO of lending company that is into lending and borrowing. It's also something that I said in 2023. Even back then, I said not financial advice. Let's go through the comment section before we go for the next news, which is regarding the whole Telegram situation. But let's see where we were inside the comment section first. Why are you watching this when you should be lining up your 7th vacation plus flu shots? Doesn't Pepe's butler have a good utility? Pepe's butler have a good utility. I'm sure it does. I'm Pisces. Then I'm going to look like a lump of wood under the standard tax code. Understand the tax code and how to read between the fine print. Facts. Also, smart individuals will put their digital assets into a trust. Some trusts are tax exempt. Also, facts. PayPal is successful stable coin. Let's go Lira for the update. If you open a corporation, I've never seen a corporation that has been taken to court. They just pay their fines off behind the scenes or on the scenes, most cases. Hey, Miles, the CMF. Billo, good to see you. How you doing? Any exciting news I missed? Towards the end, we have one. People, good to see you, Billo. How you doing, brother? People holding Bitcoin ETFs will not be able to collateralize against it, correct? For the time being, yes. Gary Gensler loses his job. Things will change. They are programming you to sit back in the 80s. Not sure what the film was called. Does anyone remember? But they said the jab was good. They said the jab was good. Of course, it was good. People are scared of the wolf, but is there a shepherd that leads you to death? Yeah. Wasn't CBDC just a response to crypto instead of crypto being a part of the plan? Well, here's the thing, Mr. Massa. There was actually regarding the here's another scenario. Here's another scenario, but here's an actual thing that happened as well. So regarding the United States, when they were filling out for COVID bills, when they were trying to give out the COVID bills and what people should do during COVID, in one of the bills, in the COVID bills, was a CBDC bill, which got essentially taken out last minute before any sort of signatures happen. It was all set up. Why would a CBDC bill be inside the filings of a COVID bill? Of what to do during COVID? You can't help those who don't help themselves, or put simply, you can't educate idiots, which is facts. What Shelley just said. God must have loved the common man because he created so many of them. Let's go, Leroy. Miles, I think the most upsetting issue of the government is in the spread of the truth with social media, as we finally had a space to discuss using our own brain and not their decades of lies. Facts. NPCs, free-thinking people, are few and far between. What happened to rich people stuck on CBDCs? They're going to be perfectly fine. They have quite a lot of gold bars and silver bars, and essentially whatever they can do with their money. If they're intelligent enough, they would shift over, completely into a digital, have quite a lot of digital assets. If they're not intelligent enough, they're going to be stuck on CBDCs. The rest of their money is going to be IOU somewhere down the line. Real eyes recognize real lies. Let's go CMF. Let's go Ian. Hi, Miles. Why is there no sign of a crypto summer? Because Jim, good to see you. How you doing? There's few manipulation scenarios going on right now inside the market space. Hi, Miles. Just joined. Butch, good to see you. How you doing? Well, we need more smarter people. I agree. I say we triple clone the entire crypto Miles family. Let's go. Happy Pisces. That should solve the world's problem. What Happy Pisces just said should solve the world's problem. I agree. Now, Telegram. Telegram is becoming a slight bit of an issue because of the Ton ecosystem and him being arrested. So, it turns out how much cryptocurrency Telegram holds revealed. Pavel, the Russian billionaire behind Telegram, is the center of the heated debate after he was arrested in France for allegedly failing to control criminal content on the popular messaging app Telegram. Recent financial documentations obtained by the FT reveal that the cryptocurrency activities have become a significant source of revenue for Telegram. Eclipsing its messaging service, the privately held company's 2023 financials show that Telegram Group, which is based in the British Virgin Islands and has significant operating subsidiaries in the United Arab Emirates, generated $342.5 million in revenue last year. However, the company also faced a significant operating loss of $108 million. A closer look at the profit and loss statement signed by Pavel and audited by the Dubai branch in April reveals that the importance of digital assets to Telegram's financial health. In particular, gains from the revelation of digital assets contributed to $86 million recorded under the comprehensive income. Telegram's revenue breakdown further underscores its crypto focus with its integrated wallet and collectible sales, both relatively new initiatives for the company now accounting for over 40% of the total revenue. The balance sheet also reflects Telegram's deep interest in cryptocurrencies, with company's digital assets of around $400 million far outweighing its cash and cash equivalents. The related party transactions section of the financial statements reveals that Pavel has made significant investments in Telegram's future. Last year, he bought $64 million worth of the company's convertible bonds and paid $300,000 in Toncoin to buy Telegram premium subscriptions in a raffle. Okay, Telegram's founder is holding quite a certain amount of cryptocurrencies. Now, if he does sell, it's not going to cause a downward spiral inside the market space, without a doubt. It'll cause a small dent, not sort of a medium or even a large dent. The bigger dent will come from people milking the story inside the crypto space. Telegram sells their cryptocurrencies, everybody panics, sell. That will, cause a little bit more of a dent, but him selling won't cause any sort of dent. Now, we don't know specifically how much cryptocurrencies he holds, and we don't even know if they can even consider selling. So if you do hear news about him, essentially holding certain amount of cryptocurrencies, don't panic whatsoever on the basis that he might sell, because the next article is coming up, most likely, the longer the story carries on, is he might sell. Pavel, founder of Telegram, might sell. Telegram might sell cryptocurrencies, but don't believe it. Either one bit. Always buy the rumor, sell the news, because they're always full of S or BS. Now, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the next topic we're going to talk about. Moving on from Telegram's situation to another privacy issue situation as well, which is Elon Musk's X platform is reportedly now banned in Brazil, following a judge's ruling that Elon Musk does not censor X the way the Brazilian government wanted to be censored, which is zero freedom of speech, all propaganda that is positive for the Brazilian government, and anything that's negative about the Brazilian government should not be allowed, even though Brazil is a part of the UN, which the UN ironically stands for democracy, peace, stability, according to the General Secretary of the UN. But apparently none of that means anything, because they're removing X. Why? Freedom of speech. The use of a VPN has essentially circulated. The probation could lead to hefty fines, according to media reports. So it seems like some people wanted to start using VPNs in Brazil if this X situation carries on, and X is fully banned. So a judge banned the use of Elon Musk's social media platform, X, in Brazil. Obviously, the judge being paid off as well. I mean, they're all in the game. According to the media reports, the essentially combination of the months-long battle of allegations of the platform was used to spread disinformation and Musk's free speech. So apparently X was essentially sending out fake information. X users were sending out fake information, apparently, about the Brazilian former government, former essentially prime minister, and the new one, and so on, and the government in general. And Brazil didn't like that. Brazil didn't like people had a voice. So what does Brazil do? Goes for their tongues, basically. X had ignored an order to remove some accounts. So on Friday, Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandra de Moraes ruled that the internet service providers must block X in the country of about 250 million people, according to the New York Times local. 215 million people in Brazil have just lost their freedom of speech, to put it that way. Media reported that anyone who uses VPN, the ban could be subject to a fine amounting to 50 reais, which is about $8,900, according to the BBC. According to the BBC, if anybody in Brazil uses VPN to access cryptocurrency, to access X for freedom of speech, they will be banned. Essentially, one, they'll be essentially paying an $8,900 fine and probably anything else that carries on with it. For cryptocurrencies, the decision cuts Brazilian users off from the platform as well, that has essentially for years served as the industry's town square. X is definitely known, one, for freedom of speech, and two, for crypto, without a doubt. Crypto supporters like Jack Dorsey, who essentially are the co-founder of X when it was called Twitter, has supported two alternative platforms, Nostra and Blue Sky. So Jack Dorsey comes out of nowhere and says, you can use my platform. If you can't have access to X, you can use my platform. But Jack Dorsey was the same man that was the co-founder of Twitter. And we all knew and we all know what was wrong with Twitter. The reason why people like X is because it has freedom of speech. The reason why people didn't like Twitter is because it was heavily censored. So with Jack Dorsey being the founder, essentially the co-founder of Twitter, which was heavily censored, him now endorsing his new platform called Blue Sky, utter trash. I'll be very honest, utter trash. As if anybody wants to go to a censorship. I don't think Jack Dorsey understands that the reason why people use X, freedom of speech, the reason why people hated Twitter, no freedom of speech. And you created Twitter, and now you have a new platform called essentially Blue Sky. And what, people are going to assume you have freedom of speech? Sure. One of Blue Sky's developers posted on the platform after the Brazilian decision, "We've never seen traffic like this." Remember when I said we have too many morons in this world? I said the amount of morons inside the retail section is this big. And I said the amount of intellectual people is this big. I was talking about this about 5 minutes ago. I said the amount of morons in this world from the retail section is this big, and the amount of intellectual people in this world from the retail section is this big. Yeah, when people lost their freedom of speech on X, they ran towards Jack Dorsey's platform, which ironically was the creator of Twitter, and Twitter was heavily censored. And Jack Dorsey's new platform called Blue Sky, which is also going to be heavily censored, is now receiving multiple, essentially, magnitude of traffic. Everybody is running towards Blue Sky, which is heavily censored. Just going back to the whole, we have this many morons in this world and this many intelligent people in this world. They lost their freedom of speech, and now they're running towards a platform that is censored. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, just 5 minutes ago, I was, doing the hand gestures, showing people how many morons there are from the retail section and how many essentially, intelligent people are in this world. And then, 5 minutes after, I'm sharing this news with you. Their freedom of speech was taken away from them, and they're all running towards a platform that's heavily censored. Oh boy. Yeah, this world is never going to get fixed. That time has passed a long time ago. The time to fix this planet was passed a very long time ago. The only thing you can do now is, just for your own family and so on, just, help your own family, basically, in this world that we're headed towards. It's the only thing you can do right now. Forget about trying to save everybody around you, save the planet. First, try to save yourself and your family in terms of going into a digital world. Get prepared for it. And then people who want to listen around you, help them out. But trying to change the entire world, forget about it. There are too many morons in this world. Miles, any idea that AstraZeneca vaccine been containing some bacteria of monkeypox? Yeah, the whole monkeypox scenario is going to be working on quite a lot of people as well. But on the matter of the vaccine containing it, I mean, look where the vaccine is coming from. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? You only have to look at NASA's blueprint for 2025. That's the blueprint for 2025. Remember when voting who backs crypto and who doesn't? What about rich people who have their wealth on fiat, like small business owners, but I got a few millions? Well, they have to start getting prepared for the digital world. It doesn't matter if if you're not part of the circle, then you're not part of their circle. But if you also want to start a digital space, then it doesn't matter if you have a few millions in the bank. You need to get entered into the digital world. If you have a small business, I've said this as well. If you have a small business, start accepting crypto payments. Start getting prepared for a crypto world. Start getting prepared for a digital world. So enter this field ASAP. So is what I would say. Because even those people, we're going to be stuck on CBDCs. Elon Musk is beefing with Keir Starmer. Has anyone heard that? Sounds like he's bed with the government. Coordinated plan. Does seem like it, yep. Jack Dorsey situation. When will XRP reach $20? Jim, 3 green lights. They have nowhere to go. Consider variable change is what I would say. They have nowhere to go through. Perhaps they think something is better than nothing, which is not. Yep. If you had the vaccine, I would recommend checking for aid. Yeah. No, I don't trust. I never had any sort of vaccines from the government. No, not a single one. I'm still here and I'm still breathing. But apparently during COVID, if you didn't get the vaccine, they told you can survive very long. Somehow I'm still here, breathing, speaking, learning, and sharing. So if they don't enter, they are doomed. If they are rich, that's harsh. Yep. Pretty much. But that's only because, essentially we live in a very harsh world. We don't live in a, friendly world. We don't live in a jolly, happy world and so on. Song and dance hall. Everybody's holding hands together and going off to the sunset. We live in a very harsh world. And if you don't make a move fast enough, you just get left behind. Now, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE. Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE lead inside of crypto adoption. A report that's just came out. So a report has came out that essentially says who is leading the digital world. Is it Singapore that's leading it? Actually, no. Before I reveal to you who is leading the digital world, before I reveal to you, I want to ask this question inside the comment section. Everybody get involved and give me which country do you think is ahead of everybody else. So a report has came out, and the report is between Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Who do you think, which country do you think is well ahead of everybody else in terms of regulations, in terms of crypto policies, in terms of regulations, in terms of innovation and Web3 blockchain technology? Which country, in your opinion, do you think is ahead of the other one? Is it the UAE? Is it Singapore? Is it Hong Kong? Which one is first? Which one do you think was essentially revealed to be the #1 country in a digital world? What's your opinions? Which country do you think was chosen as the #1 country to essentially show maximum innovation? Let's see who's going to get the right answer. We are live right now on X on YouTube. If you want to get involved inside the comment section. Which country do you think is leading the digital world? Is it UAE? Is it Hong Kong? Or is it Singapore? According to the new report study test that's been done. Miles, I thought you said the rich athletes and the movie stars would have a different No. Why would the rich athletes or the movie stars have a different CBDC? No. Corporations. There's wholesale CBDCs for corporations, and there's retail CBDCs for the retail section. Athletes and rich movie stars, why would they fall on the wholesale CBDCs? Who said this to you? Because it could not have been me in any sort of way. Corporations will have wholesale CBDCs. Retail section will have retail CBDCs. Why in any world would athletes and movie stars be considered wholesale CBDCs? Why would anyone want to inject something in their body where they're not sure of the ingredients? Yep, facts. Absolutely facts, prices. Now, Bull XRP says UAE. Susie says Hong Kong. That's not going to a restaurant and they have a special, it's made for some kind of meat, and there are the things that they just did. It's, yep. Morals, a poor man's quality. Fate favors those who take, not wait. Facts. Bull XRP says the UAE is head of every other country. Susie says Hong Kong is ahead of everybody else's country. UAE is what Shelley says. Butch says use. I'm guessing it's UAE. Yep. Ian says Singapore. Butch UAE. Joe UAE. Camel says UAE. Manny says UAE. Callie says Hong Kong. Ronnie says Vietnam. Ronnie, the question was between Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE. Where did you get Vietnam from? The answer to that question of who is the #1 leading country, it is the only person who got it right is actually two people got it right. Two people got it right. Jim is saying El Salvador. El Salvador's not in the equation. Two people got it right. And those two people are Dennis and Ian. Singapore. A recent study has revealed that Singapore has claimed the top position in the global cryptocurrency adoption rate, with Hong Kong and the United Arab Emirates following closely behind. So second place for Hong Kong and the UAE, first place Singapore. The Hanley Crypto Adoption Index 2024, released by the investment migration consulting firm Henley and Partners, studied the state of crypto adoptions in the different countries. The researchers ranked various jurisdictions based on public adoption, infrastructure, innovation and technology, regulatory environment, economic factors, and tax friendliness. From July to August 2024, the researchers collected data for 28 countries with investment migration programs. The results showed that Singapore was the top country in crypto adoption, followed by Hong Kong and then the UAE. 28 countries were studied. 28 countries were studied for this study test. And #1, Singapore. #2, Hong Kong. #3, UAE. Hong Kong, UAE, they're pretty much sitting at #2, but 1, Singapore. 2, Hong Kong. 3, UAE. Singapore nabs the top spot in crypto adoption index. Singapore scored 45.7 out of the 60 points that was given, getting the top spot among the countries reviewed. According to the study, the country leads the global in crypto adoption because of its business, financial, and regulatory environment. The researchers wrote that Singapore fosters crypto adoption because of its supportive banking system, significant investment, and comprehensive regulations. These include the country's Payment Service Act, which regulates services related to digital payment tokens, service providers. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, also led sandboxes like Project Orchard and Project Guardian to test the benefits of tokenizations. The sandbox led the Singapore's DBS Bank adopting blockchain-powered treasury tokens and blockchain-based government grants. Hong Kong, I mean, to be fairly honest, Singapore did a lot. And they've given out so many licensings. And the Bank of International Settlements did a lot of testing in Singapore. They were very willing. Hong Kong and the UAE followed closely. Hong Kong's China Special Administration Region, SAR, followed essentially Singapore in second place, scoring 42.1 in the index. The region scored especially high in economic factors and its tax friendliness. According to the study, the region cultivated an environment that promotes crypto growth through significant public interest. In addition to high business acceptance in the financial and tech sectors, and advanced digital infrastructure make it easier for individuals to use and invest in crypto in the region. Like Singapore, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority also hosts regulatory sandboxes to test tokenization benefits. On August 28th, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority launched its project Resembles to study interbanking settlements using central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and real-world assets tokenizations. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, scored 41.8 in the index out of 60, almost trying with the Hong Kong when it comes to tax friendliness, the country surpassed both Singapore and Hong Kong scores. The countries also scored notably high in economic factors, innovation, and technology. So, Singapore is the top friendly crypto country in the world. Second, Hong Kong. Third, UAE. According to a recent study test done by quite a well-known established institutional corporation that did this study test with 28 countries. They collected data from 28 countries and put it into multiple categories. And the scores were out of 60 points. And the number one ranking out of every spot, every tick in the book was Singapore. And, you know, Ripple is quite big in Singapore. Let's see where we were inside the comment section. But 2 people only got it right. Ian and Dennis. Let's go. Everybody else. To be fair, you know, if I asked that question and I didn't know the answer as well, I would probably have said UAE. So don't worry if you did get it wrong. But I know Singapore is incredibly high up the list as well. And I know Hong Kong, because I talk about Hong Kong quite a lot as well, the UAE quite a lot as well, and Singapore. So they are always on that list. And people say, why would you let the rich get, people say, why would you get rich from XRP? 1, not many people know about XRP. 2, they are filtering out many rich people because they are stuck on CBDCs. Yep. I think UAE, Vietnam, UAE. Some people, one person said, Ronnie, you said Vietnam. And you were saying as a joke, Jim said El Salvador was, which El Salvador, they're doing great. I mean, if the list of countries is quite large. I mean, they did a study test with 28 countries. Switzerland is very big inside cryptocurrency. They have a Bitcoin city in Switzerland. Laguna is a Bitcoin city where your taxes can even be paid in Bitcoin. Your electric bills can be paid in Bitcoin. So, I mean, there are a lot of innovation happening around the world. It's not just within Hong Kong, Singapore, and so on. The UAE. Hong Kong, my opinion is okay. What happened to Fetch and Ocean partnerships? Fetch and Ocean are a part of their super intelligent organization. I mean, the super intelligent AI they're building. Seems like that during a COVID, a friend of mine, top surgeon, said a woman at a local hospital all day long with inputting everybody's database of their health costs to set up a UBI, Universal Basic Income. Happy Pisces, thank you so much for that info. So Happy Pisces just revealed inside the comment section that during COVID, a friend of hers, a top surgeon, said a woman at a local hospital all day long with inputting everybody's database of their health cards to set up a UBI, Universal Basic Income. Some people might say, well, I don't believe that. And some people might say, that's interesting. What I can say on that is I believe her. 1, I believe what Happy Pisces is saying. 2, mainly the reason why I also believe her is because I know she's not a person that's going to lie about this and she has had a very high profile job. But the main reason also is that in the World Economic Forum, the beginning of 2024, we had a World Economic Forum meeting where they discussed the matters of COVID, essentially, passport. So everybody remembers that COVID passport they had. Everybody signed up for their COVID passports because they got their injections and now they could go on vacation. So that COVID passport was actually discussed in the World Economic Forum. They said the COVID digital passports were the first steps to see if people are willing to enter a digital world. So COVID passports were a beta tester to see if anybody's willing to have a digital ID. So it was your first ever social credit system, digital ID, was your COVID passport. It was a beta test to see if you're willing to fall for that trick, which everybody did. Well, not everybody, 99.9% of the world did. 0.1% didn't. That's why the world will always remain the way it is. Because 0.1% are intelligent, 99.9% will just fall for any tricks. But yeah, the World Economic Forum, they talked about that matter regarding, and it was the Dutch princess essentially that was talking about and how the Bill Gates made the foundation of building this for 10 years. They've been building social credit systems that connect to CBDC wallets. Singapore, El Salvador. Vietnam are the largest holder of digital currencies, so I'm presuming they're ahead with regulations. Ah, fair enough, Ronnie. Should have used their Copilot. Use Copilot. UAE is what G says. Singapore is what Jim says. Jim got it right as well. Let's go. UAE is what Leroy said. Is Singapore? I think so. Presumably yes. And then I can leave and then I can live in Singapore. Let's go, Cali. UAE need to be around before full adoption. Yeah. To be honest, I thought you were trying to trick us as you went to say Singapore, then you stopped. That's why I thought you were trying to trick us. Slow. Actually, I was trying to trick you. So Shelly was correct. I was trying to. No, Singapore's still number one. Singapore's still number one. But I was trying to trick you all because I said, who do you think is the most essentially number one country for crypto innovation? And I said, because the title is also on the report, Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE. Now, people tend to hear the first thing that they hear. They remember the first thing that they hear compared to the last thing they hear. So that's why I changed it up. I said Singapore. So first I said Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE. Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE. And then I realized if I keep on saying Singapore, everybody's just going to assume Singapore. So then I switched it up and I kept on saying UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore. UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore, which made everybody inside the chat put UAE. Because you tend to remember the first thing that you hear, not the last part. Everybody hears the beginning part of the sentence, but nobody pays attention to the last part of the sentence. So I switched it up. Shelly's right. I did try to trick everyone. And I said, because the title reads Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE. And everybody will remember Singapore. So I said UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore. UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore, which made everybody put UAE first. But Shelly was correct. You're the only person that realized it. Sorry about that, everyone. It's just a test. I wanted to say Singapore because of Ripple. Fair enough. But hesitated. I remember last year, Miles. I've been there too in the past. It's a very beautiful, innovative city. And everybody in the CMF said they know me too well. Everybody in the CMF said they can read my face reactions. Just joking. Let's see where we were inside the conversation. I remember that was a Miles. Yep. What does haram mean? Are you asking Ronnie? Miles, your opinion? CSPR, Casper, Scott. I'll take a look into it. See what there is in development. So, Miles, will passports be like NFTs and soon robot cars and no more taxi drivers? Okay, loaded question. Will passports be like NFTs? Yes, NFTs' actual purpose is supposed to be documentations, not pictures of rocks. Robot cars, you mean driverless cars? Yes, we're going to have a lot more driverless cars. There's quite a lot of companies. No more taxi drivers? Yes, also that's true. Eventually, yes. I've never got a COVID passport, neither have I, because I never got vaccinated. Never vaccinated either, yeah. You should have already updated out the NHS, so your data, yeah. That's you as well. I hardly read or see any news about crypto in Singapore. Opted. US media doesn't report how Singapore is leading the world in crypto. Recent interview of Kamala didn't mention crypto either. Democratic National Convention. The Democratic National Convention was just, a big concert. Not a single thing of how they're going to fix the United States was discussed. The only things that were discussed at the Kamala Harris, Democratic National Convention scenario was music. Obviously, the only thing that was discussed was Trump is a bad person. Trump will destroy America. Trump has never been into war, is what Tim Walz says. Apparently, Tim Walz has never been into any sort of, he's never seen combat action ever. So Tim Walz apparently is also full of BS. He's never seen combat action. He's never been essentially drafted into an actual war, but he claims to be inside of a war. Now, these are not my opinions. These are opinions from the United States citizens, that Tim Walz is actually a fraud and he's never seen combat action. But the entire convention was just about trying to obliterate Trump for no apparent reason. I mean, yes, they are going up against each other. Kamala Harris is versing Trump, but there was no need for an entire convention to just be about essentially belittling Trump, which they couldn't achieve at all. I mean, to be fairly honest. But there was no reason for that. What you should have done as a Democratic convention is, how about you tell us how you're going to solve everything when you couldn't do it for 3 years? The one question they should have been asked, but nobody asked it. Miles, you said as much as about CBDCs last year. Yeah, I did. I heard Singapore, and I thought it was too easy. But I really was thinking Singapore. Does that surprise you, Miles? No. I mean, look, you had the right answer first. And I said, if I was asked the same question, Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, I know Hong Kong is advanced and is actually blockchain technology. I know Singapore is advanced in blockchain technology as well. And I know UAE as well. I would have probably said the UAE as well. Somebody asked me that question. And then I would have said Singapore and Hong Kong will probably rank in second, but it was the other way around. So don't worry. We're all on the same page. COVID-19, because all three of those countries are very advanced. So either one, I mean, if you chose, you're on the right path. COVID-19 was a very, very sourceful project to them, which I'm sorry about us. Yeah. When will we notice the crypto summer? You think this September? Jim, we will have to see how the market plays out for now. There's quite a bit of manipulation going on, especially with this Telegram situation right now. So let's see how things plan out, especially we're waiting for a response about rate cuts, which we still haven't got. It was hard if you were in a job where you had no choice, which is fully understandable, what Shelley has just said. Some people did get a vaccine, and it was only because they wanted to keep their jobs. I mean, if you have a family to support, and the reason why you got a vaccine was to keep your job, is fully understandable. It's the only understandable scenario I can accept, to be fairly honest, that you did it to keep your job, to support your family. If you got a vaccine, if you got a COVID-19 vaccine, and it was the only reason you got it, it was to essentially keep your job, to be able to support your family, it's very understandable. Some athletes, for example, didn't get the vaccine and they said, I don't care about losing my job. Yes, you're an athlete. You have $10 million in the bank. But if you're a family person working an everyday job and, losing that job would have costed your family, essentially, it's very understandable why you got the vaccine. But if you willingly walked in and you're not supporting a family and you just willingly walked in to get a vaccine, that is not understandable whatsoever. But if you were supporting a family and you were doing it in essentially to support your family, to keep your job, that's the reason, that's very understandable. So I agree with Shelley. It was hard if you were in a job, you had no choice. I understand that. Yes, 100%. I'm in education, so it was either get it or walk out, or work or don't, and no income to pay the mortgage. We were forced. That's fully understandable. Wrong, very wrong that they forced people to do that. Very wrong that they forced people to get COVID-19 vaccines, but very understandable. That why you got the vaccine is very understandable. Because you were trying to support your family, which I completely understand. I feel the reason they took so long to get rid of Sleepy Joe was because Kamala would not be able to speak or have a good campaign for more than 3 months. They just want the exciting honeymoons of her being a black or whatever 3 months before voting. Yep, pretty much. And personally, I don't think she even wants the job. I think she's forced into it. Yeah, interesting. I think she wants the job because, I mean, if you look at Kamala's history, again, this is, just want to point that out there. This is not an opinion that I've shared. This is an opinion that came from CNN. CNN, they were doing an interview, surprisingly, on CNN. They were talking bad about Kamala Harris. Actually, today they talked bad about Kamala Harris as well, which is interesting to see because CNN only talks bad about Trump, never about Kamala Harris. But CNN once had essentially a news anchor who said that Kamala Harris was the original Hawk Tour girl, that she made her entire campaign on her knees. So on that matter, I think, I mean, if you look at her history, if she is the original Hawk Tour girl, if you look at her history, I think she always wanted to be in a position of having semi-power and money and wealth and so on. Because if you choose that path, if you're a male or a female, and you choose the path of, being on your knees the entire lifetime trying to get to where you want to be, then you are desperate for money and you're desperate for greed, you're desperate for power. So I think she wants that role, mainly because she's desperate for that position. But again, this was not my opinion whatsoever. Just want to point that either. This was an opinion, and the video is all over social media as well. It was either on CNN, it was a news anchor that was doing it, but it was always on Fox News. It was one of those news channels. There's a news anchor saying this statement. So I don't know what Kamala's history is whatsoever, but if that is true, then, different scenario. If you tell someone your past, they can tell a lot about you. What kind of person you are. And if that is true, that is the last person that should be leading a country. Well, she's not going to be leading anyways, to be fairly honest. She's going to be reading from a piece of paper for an entire 4 years. But again, those are my words. Those are a news anchor's words. The video is all on X about this news anchor that said she's the regional hub tour, and everybody looked at him, and the news decided to cut and go to commercial. The innovation, who are they? The mouse, let's see where actually I was. Sorry, comment section. I was here. No, I meant, does that surprise you that I picked up the fact that you were trying to trick us? Yes. Actually, no. You're very good at reading me. There's a few members of the CMF that are quite a bit of the CMF is very good at reading me. So no, it didn't surprise me that you were able to read me. Miles, if we eventually have to have a CBDC wallet, doesn't that mean we will all need to be vaccinated in some way? That's their intention, isn't it? No. It wasn't their intention for CBDC wallet for essentially vaccinations, but social credit systems can force people into vaccination. They haven't. They've had to tackle. They'd had to tackle me down low. Their innovation. Who are they? Their innovation. Ronnie, elaborate. It seems the news of partnerships or just good news rumors, finance coins do not move. Not just XRP, but any. Why is that? Timing. Timing is the reason why they don't move. It's because you got to realize that everything that happens in this world on a large scale, not the small scale, it doesn't really matter because it barely reaches the news, and if it does, it disappears. Anything large-wise, in terms of something major happening inside the financial space, inside the corporation space, in terms of government movements, it has to essentially happen in a very coordinated time frame. It doesn't happen randomly. When it does happen, it seems like a coincidence to some people, but it was coordinated to happen at a certain time. And you've got to realize when a project, for example, a crypto project does a major partnership, for example. So you will hear news, for example, Ripple partners with Standard Chartered Bank. And everybody expects, essentially Ripple to go through the roof. Everybody expects XRP to go through the roof tomorrow because essentially, Ripple partnered with Standard Chartered Bank and, and so on. And XRP is going to go through the roof tomorrow in price point. Or it could be ACH, it could be XLM, it could be XDC, because we were talking about financial projects here based on this question from John. And he's asking, why is that? So the reason why they don't move is because we live in a world that's the reality, which is when two corporations come together, establish a partnership, before the partnership even happens, they go through multiple testing and a lot of money is spent on those testings and research stages. And then they come to an agreement to sign the contracts. And when they sign the contracts, they go into deep development mode for it depends on what they're building. Their deep development mode could be 6 months because prior to that, before the contract signing, they did a lot more developments. Their development mode could be 6 months after the contract. It could be 12 months. It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. It could be 4 years, depending on what they're ever trying to build. Then after that, whatever time frame it was that they go into deep development mode, and they do launch what they decided to build, is when you start seeing price movement. Now, most people inside the crypto space have this perception of how things should operate inside the market space. where because they watch movies like Wolf of Wall Street, or they watch movies like Money Never Sleeps, or movies in these types of scenarios in Hollywood, they assume when two companies partner together, everything goes through the roof tomorrow. That's in Hollywood, not in real life. Especially when it comes to crypto projects, because again, these aren't stocks. You know, when you're buying an asset like XRP or XLM or XDC or ACH, you're not buying stocks. You're buying something that has two purposes. One, price action. Second, utility, which outweighs the price action. So you've got to understand, when a major establishment company or Standard Chartered Bank or HSBC or whatever partners with, for example, Ripple, it doesn't mean the price is going to go through the roof tomorrow. It means they're about to go through deep development that could take 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever they're trying to build. Whenever they try to build ends and it finishes and they complete the project and then they release it into the market space, slowly, you start seeing price action happen. But just because you hear the news, Ripple partners with this company or Ripple partners with that company, and you don't see the price move, don't assume that, oh, you know, it's nothing's going to happen. No, a lot of things are actually a lot of things are actually happening. They're in motion. You just can't see it. And you just basically have this Hollywood perception that if they partner today, the price has to be through the roof tomorrow. That's Hollywood, not real life. You've got to separate reality from Hollywood. And then you'll be able to see a lot more clearer when it comes to the market space. So John, regarding why is that? Because of that. Because they're going into deep development mode. They go into deep development mode when they do partnerships. And then, you know, depending on what they're trying to build, when it is released into the market space is when you start seeing price action happen slowly. They also lied and said that it would stop transmission of disease in the beginning miles. Yes, that's facts as well. Yep, regarding COVID. Let's disregardful towards women of that statement like that. Yeah, from the news anchor. Miles, I know many people who got the vaccine just because they can't travel around. Yeah, I had a few moronic friends as well around me who just got the COVID vaccine so they can go to vacation to Spain. Probably explains her cold sores. Kamala Harris. She wouldn't travel to the border. I don't think she wants to travel around the world like a president needs to. She wants power, but just from her living room. Yeah, I agree with that. Facts regarding Kamala Harris. Anybody seen an interview with Kamala Harris? When the interviewer goes to Kamala Harris, so you've, you know, this border issue that we're having. She's like, yes, we're having this, you know, border issue, and so on. And then the news anchor just goes, so you've been to the borders? And she goes, yes, the border issue, and so on. I know about the border issues. And he goes, but you've been to the borders? And she goes, I've never been to, what was it? I've never been to Fiji, or I've never been to Hawaii or whatever, either. As if that had any sort of relevance. The question was, have you been to the border? The answer should have been yes or no, not answering the question with a question. People that answer a question with a question always tend to have nothing to say. So they think they feel smarter by answering a question with a question. But the answer just should have just very basic. Yes, I've been to the border. No, I haven't been to the border. Not, I've never been to Hawaii either. What does that mean? Why are you answering a question? I mean, it was just a very moronic response to give. It was a yes and no question. Anybody could have realized that was a yes and no question. No, I haven't been to the border. Yes, I have been to the border. Should have been the only responses. But her response was, I've never been to Hawaii either. What was the relevance? And that's the president of the United States, soon to become president of the United States. Can't answer a basic question. You know who also can't answer a basic question? The current president of the United States. The current United States president can't, well, to be fair, the current president of the United States can't walk, talk, speak. I mean, he can't walk, talk, sit down, run, jog, go to the left, go to the right, write, read. I mean, he has many difficulties. But again, according to Kamala Harris, he was in perfect condition. Imagine Kamala Harris as a doctor. Forget president. just for a second, forget about presidency. Just imagine Kamala Harris as a doctor. You could walk into that doctor's office and say, you know, I have a kidney stone problem. And Kamala Harris will look at you and pat you on the back and say, no, you don't. You're perfectly healthy. You could walk in the doctor's office with any sort of disease and she would just look at you and go, no, you look perfectly healthy. Honestly, a person that couldn't walk, talk, read, write, stand, sit, run was in top condition, apparently, from her perspective, to be running as the United States president and running a country, in her opinion. So just imagine her as a doctor. You can walk in that doctor's office. And she's going to be a president soon to become. I mean, you know, this world is pretty rigged. Let's see how the election goes. She wouldn't travel. Yeah. Just look at the statistics of the Amish community. No autism, no depression. Think why? Yep. I believe in God and feel anyone can change. I like that statement. I like that statement, Scott. I also believe anyone can change. But politicians don't change. So yes, I am going against that statement, but it's okay. The reason why I would say politicians don't change is because it's based on equation. God has also given us, essentially, the ability of maths and so on, and common sense and so on. So using my other instincts that God has given everybody, which is common sense, logic, and a brain to be able to work out some equations. And looking at the maths of this whole scenario, putting the numbers together, the amount of politicians that have lied throughout history outweighs the amount of politicians that have changed. So based on that ratio of the politicians that have lied throughout history and the politicians that have changed, it's very hard to see that change within politicians, is what I would say. It's not like I don't want a female president. I just don't want the first ever female president to be a hot girl. I mean, fair enough from Gabo. But yeah, I mean, there are very qualified female presidents out there. To be fairly honest, there are extremely, very, very qualified female presidents out there. It's just not Kamala. There are so many more qualified, essentially, female presidents out there that are CEOs and executives of major establishments, of corporations, that, they're perfectly good to run a country. But Kamala Harris, really? I heard that about Kamala a few years ago, how she got to the top, and I heard it from the men, not jealous women. I am pro-crypto. All politicians lie and care nothing about the folks they are supposed to represent. Facts. I agree with Scott 100% regarding the whole politician statement. Kamala Harris was the PhD party. People forget that. You think I'm one of those who read you sometimes? Let's go, Kamal. They all bow down to the owl of Bohemian Road. Yep, it's called pivoting. Yep. Usually have something to hide. Facts. At least we know she won't be making decisions just like any other politician. Yep. I mean, who's this moron inside the comment section? I just can't, there's Jackson Whitemore. I just can't believe that's the best they can come up with in this day and age. It's about freeing your mind to evaluate your consciousness and the only freedom you need. Facts. Absolutely facts. Now, want to know something interesting about the US economy? Apparently, the US economy is doing great. Apparently. So, actually, before I tell you that news, let me tell you this news, because this news is quite major. And this news is this. US House Committee to examine crypto issues in September. The US House Financial Services Committee is planning several important crypto-related hearings in September. These are crucial dates for you to know about. If you haven't retweeted this live show on X, retweet it now so everybody else can tune in and know about these dates. The US House Financial Services Committee is planning several important crypto-related hearings in September. Next month. Next month, a lot of dates are coming up, which are very, very crucial. These hearings will address decentralized finance, DeFi, the SEC's role in digital assets, and the pig butchering scams. So, in the month of September, the US House Committee, I'm going to tell you the dates as well, are going to be sitting around the US House Committee and talking about very, very crucial topics of 1, essentially decentralized finance, 2, the SEC's role in all of this essentially crypto asset space. What has he done so far, Gary Gensler? And 3, the pig butchering scams. These discussions are crucial for the future of cryptocurrency regulation inside the United States. As Chairman Rep. Patrick McHenry, RNC guides the oversight of the US securities and various financial products. With his retirement approaching at the end of this year, McHenry is focused on establishing clearer federal regulations for the crypto industry. These hearings are crucial components of his final efforts. The first hearing is set for September 10th. So everybody put this in your calendars. September 10th is going to be the first meeting they're going to be having, which will focus on DeFi from the US House Committee. They're going to be focusing on DeFi, a sector under intense regulatory scrutiny. The hearing will be a subcommittee examination. It will explore proposed rules by agencies like the SEC and the IRS. These rules could greatly impact DeFi projects, possibly threatening their survival. September 18th is the next date to put inside your calendars. September 18th will be a busy day with 2 hearings planned. The morning session will examine the SEC's enforcement practices, especially concerning digital assets. In the afternoon, another hearing will be focusing on pig butchering scams. These scams are growing more prevalent in the crypto, where criminals pose as romantic partners to steal assets. The most anticipated hearing will be on September 23rd, which will involve the full committee, the full US House Committee, on the 23rd of September. Why? Because they're going to be discussing SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, and the other 4 commissioners will testify as well. Having all 5 commissioners testify together is unusual. It highlights the importance of the issues being discussed. Lawmakers are currently in a heated debate over who should be spearheading cryptocurrency regulations. Some legislators are calling for more significant empowerment in terms of the Commodities Futures and Trading Commission, CFTC, Rostam Benham, the chairman of the CFTC, to be leading cryptocurrencies, recognizing as a potentially more crypto-friendly regulator than its counterparties. The chance of passing crypto legislations this year is uncertain. However, the committee's busy schedule shows a strong commitment to addressing crypto issues. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and other key lawmakers want to see progress on crypto regulations. This is going to be a very interesting one. Why? Because, sorry about that, bro. 4 commissioners. So Gary Gensler is going to be there. So Gary Gensler, SEC chairman, is going to be there at this table. So the full US House Committee, the full US House Committee is coming and having a sit down on the 23rd of September. And who is going to be sitting facing them? Gary Gensler, SEC chairman. Who else is going to be sitting there next to Gary Gensler and facing the full US House Committee? Rostam Benham, the CFTC chairman, and the other 2 commissioners from the other 2 US departments as well. So this is going to be an interesting one, because Rostam Benham, for the longest time, the CFTC chairman, has said, give me the power to be in charge for regulating crypto assets. Do you know what Rostam Benham said? He said, I will regulate cryptocurrencies in under 12 months inside the United States. He said, within 6 months to 12 months, I will regulate the entire crypto space, is what Rostam Benham, the CFTC chairman, said. In 6 to 12 months, he will regulate the entire crypto space. You know what Gary Gensler said? It's still a security. Nothing about, coming up with regulations. I'm looking into policies. I'm discussing policies. No. It's a security. I'm suing it, is all he said. But Rostam Benham, on the other side, said 6 to 12 months. I'll regulate the entire space. No problem. Give me the power. So, SEC Chairman Rostam Benham, everybody's going to be there on the 23rd of September. Let's see how that discussion is going to go. But 23rd of December is going to be a very interesting one. 23rd of September, very interesting one. By the way, Rostam Benham is also Persian as well. Rostam Benham is also Persian. The CFTC chairman, he's also Persian, so he's Iranian. Maybe his Persian side to come out and, put Gary Gensler in his position. Hoping so. Miles, I think the CFTC will take over from the SEC. I hope so. Second green light on the way. Second green light on the way. Who know? They know. If you know, you know. Miles, I think the CFTC will take over from the SEC. Hoping so. The average US citizen is £4,000 plus in the red bubble is going to pop soon, worse than the 2008 crash. That's true as well. Or Ronnie said facts. Miles, maybe my kidneys want to hear Kamala's voice to be perfectly well, lol, as a doctor, lol. It's about freezing your mind to elevate your consciousness. It is only a freedom you need. It's effed, yeah. But yeah, this is going to be the debate of all debates. CFTC, essentially Rostam Benham, chairman, SEC chairman Gary Gensler, and 2 other commissioners. Wow, this is going to be an interesting one. Very interesting one. Now, but I will definitely keep people updated on this live show as well. So obviously tune in every single night. But next news on tonight's live show is crypto.com. Makes sense? Let's go. Let's go in. Crypto.com taps Standard Chartered Bank to expand fiat services. Crypto.com has announced a partnership with Standard Chartered Bank to provide fiat currency services in over 90 countries, starting with the United Arab Emirates. The partnership will help expand access to US dollar, euro, UAE dirhams. Crypto.com's regional hub in Dubai will manage the services. The partnership also highlights the exchange commitment to global, essentially, crypto adoption. Details of the partnership between Crypto.com and Standard Chartered Bank. The new service will allow new customers in over 90 countries to seamlessly conduct crypto transactions through Crypto.com. However, the service will initially be rolled out only in the UAE. The partnership comes in light of Dubai's regulatory framework, which the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, VARA, handles to ensure safety and compliance. Eric, the COO of Crypto.com, described the partnership as a significant step in the platform's global expansion plans. Not only is it a significant step forward in our global expansion plans, but also enables our commitment to delivering a world-class customer service experience whilst maintaining the highest levels of security and compliance. Aviz essentially also called the partnership significant in fostering global crypto adoption. Being able to offer our global customers effortless fiat deposits and withdrawal capabilities is a key to increasing adoption and reaching our vision of crypto in every wallet. The service will support the seamless deposits and withdrawals of fiat deposits through Crypto.com app. Carl, the global head of banking partnerships and the MEA and APAC general manager at Crypto.com, essentially stated the partnership was a win-win agreement for all parties involved. The partnership with Standard Chartered Bank gives customers confidence from a globally recognized and trusted brand. These partnerships increase trust in the industry and make transacting easier for customers. A hub for crypto. Dubai has established itself a crypto hub since establishing the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, the VARA, back in 2022. Crypto.com was one of the first cryptocurrency exchanges to receive a regulatory approval and begin regional operations. The platform went on to set up a regional hub and essentially launch its institutional focus unit. Its new global retail services will be offered through a regional hub in Dubai, a region considered to be one of the strictest when it comes to consumer protection. In 2022, VRA made it essentially mandatory for marketers and promoters to provide better advertisement clarity to ensure enhanced consumer protection. In 2023, the UAE announced establishments of a new federal law to ensure entities in the crypto space secured a license and approval from regional regulators. Failure to do so led to a steep fine and a heavy sanction against companies. Speaking about the partnership, Raul Abu Mana, Standard Chartered Bank's CEO for the UAE, Middle East, and Pakistan regions, stated, "This collaboration closely aligns with the UAE's national agenda, which emphasizes innovation, economic diversification, and the growth of knowledge-based economies. Recent partnerships of Crypto.com has been partnered with several entities to expand its global footprint. The company recently announced a multi-year partnership with the UEFA Champions League as well, becoming the first crypto platform to do this partnership with the Champions League and give it an exposure to football fans across the globe as well." Yes, Crypto.com did essentially make a partnership with the UAE Champions League as well. But their biggest partnership right now to date is definitely Standard Chartered Bank, which is also a partner of Ripple. But Crypto.com has just expanded its reach, which is massive news for them. And they're very excited about being partnered with Standard Chartered Bank, because Standard Chartered Bank is this big, ginormous name inside the corporate space. To be a partner with them is incredible. Ripple is also a partner of them, but nobody cares inside the crypto space. Isn't that sad? Because they should be excited that Ripple is a partner of Standard Chartered Bank, but they don't care. It shows you the level of intelligence inside the crypto space. When Crypto.com is jumping up and down, we partnered with Standard Chartered Bank, and they're very ecstatic about this scenario, about the situation they're in right now, which is a happy situation. And Ripple's partnered with them as well, Standard Chartered Bank. The crypto space, the majority of the crypto space can care less. What a stupid world we live in. Now, US GDP surpasses expectations, raising questions about future Fed policies. So the US economy has shown unexpected strength in the second quarter of 2024, outpacing forecasts and bolstering its position despite ongoing fears of potential recession. Apparently, the US economy is doing excellent. In reality, it's a different scenario, but on paper, it's doing excellent. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA, the essentially annualized GDP growth rate was revised upwards from 2.8% to 3%, driven by robust consumer spendings and solid performance in business investments. This revision has not only essentially surprised analysts, but also has significant implications for the Federal Reserve's future monetary policies and the broader financial markets. So when this report came out, apparently everybody was surprised. Even analysts looked at this report and went, how? Genuine question, when they do come out with a report like this, the US economy is doing excellent. How? Quarter 2 of 2024, unprecedented growth aimed economic uncertainty. The US economy is stronger than anticipated. Performance in quarter 2 2024 was largely fueled by increased consumer spending, which remains the primary engine of American economic growth. Household expenditures rose by 2.5% during the quarter, supported by resilient labor markets and raising real wages. The sustained strength in consumer spending highlights the ongoing confidence of the American households in the face of economic uncertainties. In addition to consumer activity, business investments also contributed positively, particularly in equipment spendings, which saw a notable increase of 3.2%. This uptick suggests that businesses are continuing to invest in growth despite higher interest rates, signaling confidence in the economy near-term projects. The external sector added further momentum to the GDP figures as exports grew at a faster pace than imports. This trend underscores the competitiveness of American products on the global stage, even in the face of stronger dollar that particularly makes the US industries and their abilities to navigate challenging international conditions. However, the upward GDP revision complicates the Federal Reserve's efforts to balance economic growth with its mandate to control inflation. The GDP deflator, a key measure of inflation closely watched by the Fed, was revised of upwards from 2.3% to 2.5%, while still close to the Fed's 2% target. This figure suggests that inflationary pressures are not easing as quickly as policymakers would like. This could prompt the Fed to maintain its restrictive monetary stance longer than expected and previously anticipated, potentially affecting future economic growth. Financial markets reacted variably to the revised data. U.S. stock markets initially rallied, reflecting optimism about the health of the economy. However, the cryptocurrency market experienced increased volatility. Bitcoin, for instance, essentially went through some difficulties. Now, following the news, but later surrounded these gains as investors weighed their potentials for extended Fed tightenings. Economists remain divided on the outlook for the upcoming quarters. Some believe that the current momentum could persist, bolstered by continued consumer strength and business resilience. Others warn of possible slowdowns as tighter financials, essentially conditions, and waning post-pandemic stimulus effects could weigh in on the growth prospects. The latest GDP data underscores an American economy that is more robust than ever than many have essentially anticipated for monetary policy and market dynamics were complex, setting the stage for critical period of economic decisions making and market adjustments in the months ahead. So apparently the American market is doing excellent. The US economy is doing excellent. You know what's interesting? That reality always looks different on paper. It's very interesting. Reality that, the reality you see with your own two eyes, it always looks different on paper. I mean, if you look at it on paper, if somebody reads this, the analyst, the interesting part was the analysts that read this went, how? But the interesting part is, the way they described the economy on paper, it's like the US has no homelessness. Nobody's lost their house. Nobody's lost their mortgage. Gas is cheap. Electricity is cheap. Groceries is cheap. People can afford food. People are getting paid good wages. Everybody has a job. Nobody's lost their job. The way they're describing it is, I don't think they're describing the right country or any country on this planet, to make, in a matter of fact. This doesn't sound like the US, and it doesn't sound like any country on this planet. What country right now is doing excellent? Every country right now is in crazy debt. Every country is in crazy debt. Every country's economy is doing terrible. There are more bankruptcies this year than ever before in terms of corporations, small, medium, or large. There have been more bankruptcies this year than ever before. The real estate market has pretty much collapsed in quite a lot of jurisdictions. Gas prices are through the roof pretty much everywhere around the world, except some Middle Eastern countries because they provide it, because they're drilling for it. But electricity is through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. Mortgages through the roof. Rent is through the roof. So what country are they describing in this study test that they've just done? Because it can't be the US. And it can't be any country on this planet. So, they are paying these, essentially these people that collect data, they are getting paid very well, because you must be getting paid extremely well to write that much amount of BS, or you just don't have any brain cells. You've never walked out your house door. Because if you look at the real world, what country is doing well right now? Should be the real question. So I don't know which moron wrote that report. He's either being paid off or he's never left his house. Because if he ever did leave his house, he would get to see the reality of people struggling. Well, a lot of people are struggling. And that's the reality, which he has not written in his report. In his report, everything's perfect. What a joke. Now, Ripples. The Ripple news is next, what we're going to be talking about right now. But before we go for the Ripple news, let's just have a comment section first. Ian, thank you for the £20 donation, brother, to the CMF hedge fund. Let's go. Ian, thank you for the donation, brother. Thank you so much for the CMF hedge fund. Let's go. Mouse, I think the safety will take it. Makes sense. Next one in contest as fast. Only because the top weapon manufacturers keep they out of recession. Yep. Good night, Miles. All CMF. Funky brother. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. You're correct, Miles. The country's credit ratings has plummeted too. If you can manipulate the data, the lie will tell itself. Russia seems to be doing well. Trust me, Russia, maybe from our view side, seems like doing well. From the news, Russia's not doing too well, but who really believes the news? From, with our own two eyes, it seems that Russia's doing well, but on paper, no country's doing well right now. On paper, no country is doing well. Russia is also struggling. The reason why I would say Russia is also struggling is why do you think Russia passed legislations for cross-border payments in cryptocurrencies so fast? A country that was against Bitcoin, a country that was against cryptocurrencies, passed legislations for cross-border payments extremely quickly. The reason why they passed legislations for cryptocurrency cross-border payments is because majority of countries wouldn't buy from Russia due to second sanctions. So Russia had to find an alternative payment system which they can use to do imports and exports so their economy doesn't collapse. So, on the news, Russia's not doing too well, but they're lying to you anyways. I mean, their reasoning on the news is not what I just told you right now. Their reasoning is something else. With our own two eyes, Russia's economy is doing excellent. It seems like it. But in reality, the reason why they passed legislations is because they can't do imports and exports. So they had to pass the legislation for cryptocurrency cross-border payments to be able to do imports and exports to maintain their country out of float. No country is doing well right now. Miles, it's so ironic that every country is a dismal situation and all under liberal governments. Yep. All scientists agree with people funding them the same data. That's true as well. Yep. Now, Ripple news. Ripple Labs' major move in Asia spotlighted at this event. Blockchain payments firm Ripple Labs Inc. Is making a big move in Asia. It recently participated in the WebX 2024 conference in Tokyo, Japan. The conference was organized to showcase the new advances in Web3 innovations across different industries, including payments. Ripple and giant payment strides Ripple's essentially participated at the event marks another avenue for the company to display its resilience as a major contender in the payments world. A senior vice president at Ripple X was present at the event as well, and especially spoke about the role and growth of tokenization in traditional finance. SBI remains one of the country's biggest allies, and related business link-ups have been registered for the past few years. The company is advancing on the premise that for it to grow as required, it needs many industry partnerships as possible. The next few months are going to be crucial for Ripple. So apparently the next few months is going to be crucial for Ripple because Ripple apparently is going to make some announcements of major partnerships. Something that was coming out of essentially the Tokyo conference in Japan, the WebX 2024 conference, which was all about Web3 innovations and including payments, cross-border payments and so on, and tokenizations and so on. And essentially, they're going to be announcing some major, and the next few months is going to be very crucial for Ripple. They're going to be announcing some major things. So I just want to keep you updated on that matter. So we have reached the endings of tonight's live show as well. If you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like if you already haven't, retweet this live show if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on X, follow and tune into this live show every single night. This was episode 142. 143. This was episode 143. It says it there. I don't know for a second why I thought 142, but 143. You can tune into this live show every single night. I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. You can tune this live show every single night. We do live Q&As as well. It's called the CMF live show. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. We have our own Telegram group as well, which anybody's more than welcome to join. So definitely join if you haven't. It's completely free. Everything I do is completely free of source. And on tonight's live show, we discussed matters like Ripple and Japan, their new announcements. We also went for the news topic of the US GDP, apparently doing excellent. We also talked about we went through news regarding Crypto.com and Standard Chartered Bank. We discussed news regarding the US House Committee examining crypto issues in September. Some crucial dates we went through as well on tonight's live show. I also went through the news topic of Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UAE in terms of a new crypto report that's came out. I also talked about the news regarding Elon Musk and X and Brazil situation. I talked to you about regarding Telegram situation as well on tonight's live show, how far that situation has went. We talked about Bitcoin being used as collateral for loans and even cryptocurrencies in general, which is a better solution. We talked about the UN discussing AI is what the next topic is going to be from the UN. We talked about essentially the massive Bitcoin corporation, the Bitcoin mining corporations, that some of them are going through some difficulties right now, and one of them has filed for bankruptcy. We also talked about Microsoft on tonight's live shows, MasterCard on tonight's live show as well, regarding launching essentially face scans or palm scans from MasterCard coming soon. They want to move away from bank cards. So if you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. It's called the CMF live show. Talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. And everything I've said is not financial advice, not political advice, and only for entertainment purposes is the disclaimer of this live show every single night. So tune in for episode 144 tomorrow on X or on YouTube Live. Same timing as usual, every single night. Good night, brother. See you tomorrow, Camel, same time as usual. Mike, good night, Miles. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great live. Thanks. Free and forever. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Have a good weekend, everyone. Night and day, CMF. Shelly, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Good night, CMF. Orphan, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Ian, good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Ian, thank you so much for the donation as well to tonight's live show. You too, Shelly. Grand raising from tomorrow on CMF. Thank you, Miles, for a great show tonight. Good night to you and all the CMF. Troy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great job, Miles. Scott, thanks so much for the kind words. I enjoy the program as I always do. Let's go, Scott. Scott, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great show. Let's go, Susie. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Good night, Miles. Have a great evening. You too, Scott. See you tomorrow, brother, same time as usual. What I don't understand with MasterCard is what if you want to use a different account? Do you wink? Do you wink for one or another the account law? Genuine question from Shelly. No, I think it's in general, you're going to have one bank account. That's why it's one CBDC wallet. But interesting perspective. Share the program, family. Let's go, Scott. I'll celebrate tomorrow. Same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same timing as usual.